Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge. I know everybody is busy with family, so you're welcome for pulling you away at least for 30 to 45 minutes. I'm the Counselor of Cash. We've got a great show for you today. We're talking all three NFL games. Before I bring in, this is a star-studded affair here. Before I bring in the stars of the show, let's actually take a look at the Wednesday recap screen. This is a football show today, but let's take a look at what we did yesterday. 3-2 overall. Really, I guess that's a winning day a little bit. We win a little bit of money there, but not a great day. Certainly not a bad day. We'll take 3-2. But we've got a lot of picks today. We've got, Mackenzie Brooks is here. We've got Mike McClure. We've got Propstarz. We've got a lot of picks. Some people have more picks than others, but we're going to be talking about every game, and we're going to be answering every single one of your questions if we can. So get your questions in the chat. Mackenzie Brooks, what's going on with the sunglasses?
Sia, I felt better in my life. Big night last night. Got to go to the high school reunions, all of the things. And God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And some of us are waking up to give out absolute heat on this Thanksgiving morning for the entire NFL slate. So adversity, Sia. That's what this is.
I think you need to clip that and pin it to your profile, because that was really awesome. Everything that just happened, pretty awesome. Property.
And the chat's like in the same spot from what I'm hearing. So
Yes.
If I'm not a woman of the chat, I don't know what I am.
Proppy, for those who might be new to the Early Edge, can you offer a proper introduction?
What's up, everybody? Good morning. Inspiring words from our colleague, Mackenzie. So this is none other than Goose, who's a very important member of Propstarz headquarters. He's really the brains behind the operation. Most of the picks are actually made by Goose. I just kind of facilitate his success and post them up for us. But he's a very successful handicapper and a big part of what we do with the Early Edge.
Absolutely love to see Goose. Mike, you're looking very smooth. You're looking very dapper. How you feeling about the Thursday slate?
I feel good about the Thursday slate. How can you not? It's Thanksgiving and football. You get to see the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. Just a lot of great things to be thankful for in general, though, for real. Look, it's football. I love it, and I can't wait to break down these games with you guys.
We are going to get into the games right now. I do want to mention there's some people who are looking for – I put in a first half bet on the under in that Green Bay game. We're going to get to that game in a little bit, but as I was putting that pick in, the number did tick up very momentarily from 23.5 to 24. Again, that's the first half under. That's an official play I'll give out later. The reason I'm bringing it up now is because those 24s are nowhere. So you'll see on the recap screen for this show, 23.5 is the number, because I don't see any 24s anywhere. So Nicholas and all those of you that are asking, 23.5 is the official number for purposes of this show. And I like the under still at 23.5. That's where it is everywhere. Again, we'll get to that game later. Let's start with probably the game of the day. I don't think there's any dispute here. I think as far as a known commodity, I think we kind of know what we're getting with this game. There's a lot of questions with weather and quarterbacks in the other two games. This line now at BetMGM is 10 points. It's gone from 11 to 10 to 9.5. Now it's back to 10. It's a 47.5 point total. We got a lot of official picks and props. So we're doing this like Early Edge primetime, but we're going to do it with a little bit more speed. So Propstarz, we talked yesterday. We were on the Early Edge together yesterday, and I was talking about Caleb Williams, and you liked a certain thing when it came to Caleb Williams. I do as well. Talk to me about your play.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I'm backing Caleb Williams today. I like all of his props, but particularly interested in some volume-based props. I'm going to go with over 21.5 completion for Caleb Williams, coming off of arguably his best start of the season versus a very good Vikings pass defense. Handled 54 dropbacks in that game. That was a season high for Caleb Williams. 11 of those being screen passes, connected on all 11 of those for 91 yards and a touchdown. So love the way that new offensive coordinator Thomas Brown is scheming up some quick high percentage throws for Caleb Williams, which I anticipate being the case again against this Detroit defense. It's a significant pass funnel, partly because their offense is as good as they are. Teams are opting to go very pass heavy. Teams are 68% pass to run against this Detroit defense. Last week, we saw Caleb Williams 5% pass rate over expected. So with the new offensive coordinator, which looks like a huge upgrade to me over Shane Waldron, which we're seeing right now, seeing them take advantage of Keenan Allen, seeing them take advantage of DJ Moore. Both have a lot of yards after the catch ability. So, yeah, I think we're going to see Caleb Williams get rid of the ball quickly and utilize the short area passing game and lots of screen passes. And as a result, I love his chances of going over 21.5 completions, but I do like all of his props, Sia.
All right. Absolutely love to see this. Interesting comments from the chat. Goose is buckets Freya. That's certainly true, I should say. Will Like says, Ken's, what's your go-to Thanksgiving beverage? And Taylor DeHart says, stoked to see Proppy and Goose reunited. So, Ken's, answer that question, and it looks like you have a bet on the total. So talk to us about that as well. Oh, tough scene. Rough night indeed.
It's on brand with the shade.
Guys, we're not firing on all cylinders, okay?
That's great.
Yeah, this about sums up my life, talking about cocktails and then bets. So first off, would love to start with a Bloody Mary. Then we move into the apple cider margarita later in the day, and a lot of wine with dinner. Wine for dinner for sure. As far as bets, we like Detroit here. If I were to go aside, I would go Detroit. The SportsLine models projected score 32-20. But I like the points. There's one game we get to root for points, and it's going to be this one. I mean, this is our only shot here. And I like the Proppy agrees as well with the completions from Caleb Williams. I think both teams go over their team total, projecting Detroit again for 32 points. They average 38 per game at home this year. Like, this is an at-home machine. And then you get the Bears in the indoor field, which should certainly help them as well. But I think them putting up points recently, 27 against Minnesota as well, is not a coincidence. Again, it is the new offensive coordinator. You'll see a lot of DJ Moore, like Proppy was saying. So I think we can get both teams to go over their team total. And even if Detroit is up big late, I still think we could get some garbage time points. So that's why I like the full game over.
Yeah, garbage time points and garbage time yards. To the extent that is going to happen, I really like that on the Bears side, specifically for Caleb Williams. I'll talk to you about a prop there in a second. Mike, real quick question, though. I know you don't have an official play in this game. Any leans as it relates to a prop, the side, or the total?
Yeah, I lean to the Bears plus 10 here. Look, the Lions have been incredible this season. I will say the teams that they're beating and just completely blowing out are typically some of the bottom feeder teams in the league. And the current state of the Chicago Bears over the last few weeks, I actually put them a lot closer to a playoff contending team in the NFC. So I think we could see a scenario here where we ultimately get that backdoor cover. I like you guys' looks on the Caleb Williams overs. I think that he's a fantastic play in DFS as well. But I like his over on yardage. I like DJ Moore overs a little bit here as well. I think he could have a game where we see 9, 10, 11, 12 kind of targets. I think it really could be used as an extension of that run game in this particular matchup. So I do like the Bears side if I had to play it.
Yeah, the DJ Moore look is interesting. We talked about that, Mike, on FFT DFS, which, by the way, after this show, you still have time to listen to FFT DFS and still make your DFS lineups for the game starting at noon. All right, I'll go with my props, and then Mackenzie, I know SportsLine has a couple of props you want to give out as well. So let's start with Caleb Williams. I don't want to belabor the point because I already gave this out on the early edge. Proppy and I talked about it yesterday. We got Proppy's completions prop. This all kind of goes hand in hand, although I will say this. As far as the completions prop, I do like the over 21.5. I also like the over pass attempts of 33.5. But what I'm really betting here, my official play on SportsLine, it's Caleb Williams over 227.5 passing yards. I mean, this is just a situation where even with the injuries that the Lions have on the defensive end, I don't see the Bears running the ball super successfully, especially if they're going to be in a negative game script. I think we're going to have to see Caleb Williams air it out like he kind of has been doing, especially late in games. So I like this number over 227.5 pass yards. Rome Odunze. Listen, I know we could kind of pick among all three of these receivers and try to figure out which one of the two is probably going to eclipse their over. I think one of them is going to be Rome Odunze. Over 43.5 yards, pretty conservative. This guy, since Thomas Brown has taken over, has gotten 10 targets in each game. That's 10 targets in each of the last two games. And he's been really inefficient with it, and that's mostly Caleb Williams' fault. But he's still seeing targets downfield, and he's still seeing double-digit targets. So you got to think regression is going to set in, and he's going to be at least a little bit more efficient. And in this type of game script, 43.5 for in my opinion, the most talented receiver on the Bears roster is a very low number. It wouldn't shock me at all if he blows this number away. So give me Rome Odunze. I do understand the floor is potentially low too because of the inefficiency, but that number of targets, I'm looking for regression to the mean. Give me over 43.5 receiving yards. All right, Mackenzie. Let's go to a couple more props, which I know well, I know we'll have some response to. There's some DeAndre Swift kind of haters in the chat, and I get it. But
that's my dog right there. He signed my Eagles football right before he left.
Okay, is that influencing this play here on DeAndre Swift? Because I can't tell one way or the other.
No. I think I would have played this regardless. Although he does have a special place in my heart, I do think he goes over 47.5 rushing yards today. We have him projected for 58. Does that mean it's a quality 58 rushing yards? No, but they all count. Even if you're just getting yourself in better position to punt the ball and it's a 15-yard drive, fine. It all counts, okay? And I think it's a good buy low spot on him. He only had 30 yards on 13 carries last week and just a slow start in general in Chicago. But outside of that, like, it was 50-plus rushing yards in the previous 7 games. So I think we get back on track here with him. I think we're getting a good low number. You can shop around for this as well. Some 48s out there, but try to find a 47.5 if you can. And then, see, we're going full circle here. Roschon Johnson, anytime touchdown. I think people are down on him and fading him because he scored last week with just 2 carries and 2 yards, but he is coming in the game just to score touchdowns. 6 rushing touchdowns this season on just 45 carries and 9 games. So I think he's obviously the primary goal line rusher here. You'll see me talk about him a little later as well. But I mean, I just think this should be around like plus 120, plus 130. So to get plus 200, shop around. You can find even better prices as well around the board. I think this is worth a sprinkle.
This is interesting, the Roschon Johnson one. And I think some people might think these two are competing against each other, but the cool thing about the Roschon Johnson experience is he's really just getting the goal line stuff. So it really doesn't affect, and I know you kind of just alluded to this, Kenzie, it's not really affecting the yardage from DeAndre Swift. I will say this, I'll push back a little bit. One of the bets I like kind of anti-DeAndre Swift, and it really doesn't have a ton to do with his yardage because we know he can break one. That's what he typically does. I like his under rushing attempts of 13.5. I just think that's way too high. We know that Roschon, to the extent they get inside the 5, he'll probably steal a carry or 2. But given the game script that I think we're going to see, I could see 11 or 12 rush attempts. But that's a very pedestrian 47.5, right? So he could still hit the 50 yards and have 10 or 11 rush attempts. So totally get the play there. I'm looking to see if there are any questions because we do want to move on to the next game. Proppy, any comments or any questions you saw in the chat that you need to respond to relative to this game?
None that I saw, but I'm always open for business. So good time to plug the Discord, which I have been active in. So if you don't get a question in or I don't answer it on this stream, hit up the official SportsLine Discord where you can have access to me basically 24/7, 365. Happy to chop it up, answer any question you may have about anything NFL, NBA related, or any subject for that matter.
Love that. Mike, I do want to ask you a question from Kirk Schroyer. Kirk and everybody else, thanks for being in the chat. Hit the like button if you would. Which do you like more? Keenan Allen over 51.5, I guess that's receiving yards, or Tim Patrick over 21.5 receiving yards? And before you answer, I remember from FFT DFS yesterday you talking about Keenan Allen. So I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, I would be more on Keenan Allen in this particular spot. I just think the game script sets up to where we could get one of those classic Keenan Allen drives where he just has 3 catches and 4 plays that ultimately puts it over. Like he just targeted 3 plays in a row on a drive. So I feel way better about that. It's way more needed than the Tim Patrick experience. Now, I would say if you like Tim Patrick at 21.5, just take the discount and bet his longest reception over because it's likely coming on 1, maybe 2.
Yeah, interesting play in DFS. I might sprinkle him into one lineup. I think he's 3,500 in DFS if you want to take that. One more question, Proppy, for you from Moshi. He says, what a cast. And by the way, Ken's, everybody's loving the sunglasses. And I got to say, I think it's a great look. Moshi says, is Caleb Williams over 22.5 completion still a look? So before you even answer, Proppy, I mean, when it comes to completions and attempts and things that nature, anytime the number moves, it is kind of a bigger difference than if like a yardage number moves for obvious reasons. But Proppy, 22.5 versus 21.5.
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on the price point here, but yeah, I would say I still consider it a look here. I have a significant edge. I haven't projected a 24.7 completion, so still a go for me at 22.5. Obviously prefer the 21.5 if you still have access to it, though. But if it's plus money or close to even money, I still think it's a good look there.
Before we move on to Giants Cowboys, I do think this game warrants like this of all the 3 games, this is the one that warrants like a crazy SGP with majority of overs, maybe an anytime touchdown score too, and like maybe an under or 1 or 2 unders. If anybody wants me to tweet out like a crazy SGP like I did last week, which for the record did not come in, type in SGP in the chat and I'll tweet one out. And again, it's all sprinkle money. Betting's supposed to be fun too, right? So that's something maybe we can consider between the hours of 11 and 12, looking at SGP from this game specifically. All right, we got to move on to Giants, Cowboys, and then Dolphins, Packers. We'll do it all right after this message from our partners. We're back on the early edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Nick says, where do we find the Discord link? All right, well, if you're a SportsLine member, you can be in the Discord link. So that's the good news, Nick. I assume you're already a SportsLine member. If you're not, just go to sportsline.com/join and you type in the promo code WINNERS. You get 60% off the annual plan. Once you are a SportsLine member, Jake, I don't know if you have the actual graphic, but it's you can go to SportsLine and find the link, or you could just go here, discord.gg/SportsLine. Again, discord.gg/SportsLine. That'll get you right into the Discord. It is already, it's only like 2 weeks old, and we've already got well over 1,000 people in it. It's very active. It's just going to become more active. There's a lot of expert chats where people like Propstarz and Mike McClure are going to be answering questions just like in a zone of like 30 minutes. But a lot of these people are in there anyway. Forget about like the 30-minute isolated Q&A. There's just so many people in there. RJ White's been super active. Just a lot of talent in that Discord. So go check that out. All right, now we're forced to check out the Giants and the Cowboys. Yes. I still don't know. Yes, there she is. I still don't know. Like, Mike, I want to go to you on this because as of last night, it seemed like, and you see the odds here, right? Giants plus 3.5. This is at Dallas, 37.5 point total. It seemed as of last night that Drew Lock was kind of definitely starting without official word. Maybe I missed something this morning, but it does seem like we're not sure now, and that Tommy DeVito's a game time decision, which is slightly shocking to me. Your thoughts on this situation? Do you have any sort of clarity on this?
I don't have a ton of clarity other than I think Drew Lock was the best quarterback on the roster without any real doubt there. As far as Tommy DeVito, I think he wants to play. One of his last opportunities to essentially start NFL games. So I think he definitely clearly wants to play there. I think that there's some financial interest in the Giants in having Tommy DeVito play and not having to pay Drew Lock if he does play. So I think that they're going to let Tommy DeVito try and gut it out and see. But man, I think Drew Lock definitely gives him a better chance to win. I think he definitely helps the passing game as well. So nothing I'm playing here. If Lock were starting, I would play the Giants personally, but I don't have that information. So not going to play anything until I know who's starting at quarterback, unfortunately.
Yeah, so this is kind of a weird one. And this is why, Mackenzie, the model has a couple of picks that we're going to talk about. But you'll notice me and Mike and Proppy, we don't have official plays because it's really hard to come up with official plays. I know, Mackenzie.
I mean, grow up, guys. This is the best game of the year.
For the record, Mackenzie, I actually like your 2 picks, notwithstanding that I don't know who the Giants quarterback is going to be.
Exactly. I was giving this out. I was building parlays on people's phones last night in the bar, and 2 of these plays were consistently part of them.
This is very interesting. All right, well, we're going to get to your plays in a second, but everyone, you can understand why this is probably going to be the game that's going to have the least amount of picks, but that doesn't stop one Mackenzie Brooks. Proppy, I'll come to your opinion on this game in a second, and I'll give mine out as well. But Mackenzie, you're going to see, okay, so later in the show, at the end of the show, after we cover the 3 games, me and Mackenzie Brooks have some SGPs to give out. Mine is actually just a alt line 2-game parlay. But I like this side of it, Kens. Talk to us about the spread.
Okay, first of all, I need to point out, I tried to point it out in the chat, but I made a TikTok yet. My TikTok's very much football 101 for girls, and like, here's what this is, and this is what a parlay is, and all those things. And this one did well, and I was explaining that this is just a team that sucks versus a team that sucks less. And we are going with the team that sucks less today is the Dallas Cowboys, I think. Do I prefer to have a 3 instead of a 3.5? Absolutely. But we can't all have nice things. And I do think Cooper Rush objectively has put together 2 good statistical past 2 weeks compared to when he played Philly 3 weeks ago. So if I'm going to pick a side here, regression to the mean for the Dallas Cowboys means maybe cover a game at home, maybe. Giants pass rush, I feel like was awesome. And then they gave up on the season. Okay. Just 1 sack in the last 3 games. So it's going to happen for the Cowboys. Quote unquote, America's team, maybe on Turkey Day is the time. Now, that's probably not my favorite play. However, my player prop, which is typically the market I find the most success in, going Tyrone Tracy over 76.5 rushing and receiving yards. I wish it was 67. It's not. But nonetheless, we haven't projected for 95. Okay. 18 receiving yards in that. Even I think you could go over this just with the rushing yards. Again, unknowns at QB means run the ball. And if they're going to show that this is the future of the franchise, they better sell it. Okay. I mean, give him the ball, give him the volume. If they want him to be 80% of Saquon Barkley for 8% of the price, it starts now. Show us what you got. Okay. And Dallas's run defense, again, started the season horrendously, had some good run defense. And then I feel like they're reverting back to their old ways. So if not anybody else in this game who to bet on, it's going to be Tracy for me.
Yeah, I mean, Tracy makes sense. There is one issue with Tracy, I think, and that's if he fumbles, like he's definitely getting pulled. But he is clearly like, and you can run on Dallas. Like this makes sense on Tyrone Tracy's front. He's certainly more talented than anybody I think thought coming into this season. Japan says new Kens, who dis? Which is hilarious.
Well, actually, my bit was to like go for the hungover vibe, but I'm suddenly realizing I just look like Mike McDaniel right now.
Excellent comp.
This isn't a Mike McDaniel outfit.
Yeah, that's not a bad comp there. All right, Proppy, talk to me about, did you consider any props in this game? And talk to me about Tyrone Tracy's role in this one.
Yeah, first and foremost, regarding Mackenzie, I'm getting some old Hollywood, some Joan Rivers vibes from Mackenzie here. So just shout out to Mackenzie. Amazing.
That's exactly what we were going for, Proppy.
Yeah,
thank you.
Looking awesome. Yeah, this is an interesting matchup, very speculative, which is I think why Mike and I and you see it don't have picks from this game. Obviously, not knowing the quarterback for the Giants playing a big role in not having any official selections here, but just looking at this Giants offense with Tommy DeVito, pretty much what we expected. With a clean pocket, he was fairly efficient. Without a clean pocket, he was downright dreadful. So yeah, pretty much what will be the case. I think if he's under center again here, Drew Lock, I do think is an upgrade. How substantial, not really sure, but yeah, nothing really looking appealing to me outside of maybe Malik Neighbors if Drew Lock was under center here. I do expect him to continue to be the focal point of the game plan. How involved he is, tough to say. Or how effective he can be just because of the quality of those targets. As far as Tracy is concerned, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Sia. One fumble away from potentially losing a grip on that job. So, yeah, just nothing here really jumping out to me. Nothing I'm really interested in playing. So this is a total stay away from me.
Proppy, do you feel a little like underdressed here? Like me and you are just kind of like in our normal clothes, and Mike looks like he's like about to go to the club, and Ken's looks like she just graduated #1 in her class at flight school and is like going out with the crew.
Mackenzie always looks great. I do want to comment on Mike's attire. There was a shift sometime in the past 6 months.
Yes.
Where Mike went from, being pretty casually dressed to suddenly the wardrobe just went like well over like 100, like an incredible jump. The wardrobe just went up like massively as far as I'm concerned. So shout out to Mike for really just improving the wardrobe. And Mackenzie always looks awesome.
I'm supposed to be the one thing that Mike left me with was I was still kind of like the handsome guy on the show. And now Mike took that from me too. Not cool. It's just not cool. I don't appreciate it. You do look great. Let me see if there's any other questions before we move on. Oh, I have a question. Mike, this question is for you actually. Rico Dowdle. Obviously, his numbers are now inflated. Everybody's kind of looking at Rico Dowdle. He makes sense in this game. I noticed his rush attempt prop 15.5, which looks about right to me. His combo prop, rushing and receiving, 87.5. Any thoughts on that? I'll go around the horn. I mean, it obviously these are a little inflated, but I do have to ask about Rico Dowdle because he does seem to be a key piece in this game.
Yeah, I think he's a key piece in the game. They're just obviously incredibly committed to giving him touches, whether they're successful or not. The defense on the other side is obviously terrible. So as much as I would like to potentially bet against him here, I'm not going to. The volume is just ultimately king here. And while the efficiency wasn't great in some of those spots, the volume still continues to be there. So I might fade him a little bit here in DFS, which is obviously a very different game than just simply taking a position on a prop. But
yeah,
be a stay away from me.
Propstarz, I'll just add to this that his anytime touchdown prop is plus 105. I mean, these margins are off by like 5 cents either way. But Tyrone Tracy, I should note, is plus 150 to score a touchdown, which I think is a pretty good number. But any thoughts on Rico Dowdle?
I thought Mike hit the nail on the head. I wish we could give you a more interesting answer, but yeah, I don't have a tremendous amount of confidence in Rico Dowdle, but as Mike mentioned, he's going to get the majority of the work. The volume should be there. It's also a good matchup for him. Giants' run defense has certainly been dismal here. I have some questions whether Rico Dowdle can hold up over the course of 15 to 18 touches in a single game, but that being said, the defense is not I don't have enough confidence, or the defense doesn't inspire enough confidence to me to comfortably fade him. So yeah, it's just something I'm kind of staying away from.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I saw a comment asking about the total. To me, this does qualify as an ugly over candidate at 37.5. I think that there are a number of scenarios where we can ultimately get to 40, 41, 43 in this one. Again, keep in mind, this is a dome controlled environment with one kicker that we know can kick from 65. So you talk about that and just the explosive nature that has to do with poor defenses, right? So when you talk about like a guy like Kevontae Turpin's been in the end zone twice the last 2 weeks. He's a threat at any moment against this Giants defense. CeeDee Lamb is as well. And then if Drew Lock gets to play here, they're going to sling that ball around a lot with him. So I personally don't mind taking a position on an ugly over here at 37.5.
Mike, I'm a Commanders fan. How dare you bring up Kevontae Turpin? That was... And a field goal kicker. That was a tough scene last week. Mackenzie, did the model tell us anything about Rico Dowdle one way or the other?
Let's take a look at the projection, Sia, while we have it. Please hold. Let's see. We have Dowdle projected for 64 yards on 12.3 carries.
Okay, so that's his rushing yard total.
Yes.
64. Okay. I'm seeing here that, okay, so that's a little under what his rushing total would come out to be. So, okay, lean to the under. That does make sense. Again, I do think Dowdle lines are probably just a touch inflated. I think we've covered most of the questions on this game. Is such a big unknown. So let's move on. Will Drummond says, damn, that was a rough Sia Seibert missing those field goals, those extra points, actually. And there was somebody else in the chat thanking us for being here today. Thank you for being in here today. Listen, I know it's Thanksgiving. It's easy for us to be in here because you all make it easy. It's easy for me to have a conversation with Mackenzie Brooks and Propstarz and Mike McClure and this whole early edge team. So it doesn't feel like work for us, but we appreciate the whole family being together on Thanksgiving. Let's move along to Dolphins Packers. But before we do that, how about one more message from our partners?
Historic rivals with unforgettable seasons meet in a game of honor. The Army-Navy game presented by USAA, December 14th on CBS.
We're back on the early edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. All right, this Dolphins game, very interesting in Green Bay. Before we get there, somebody asked me, Ramos said, Sia, thoughts on Caleb Williams over 263.5 pass and rush yards? I do lean that way because I do think he'll have a rushing game, but I'd rather just take the passing yards. Dolphins plus 3.5. This went from 3.5 to 3, now back to 3.5, a 47.5 point total. Mike, you had a lot to say on this game, on CBS Sports Network, on FFT, DFS, and Early Edge. Let's start with your play, which I know you're on the Dolphins, and talk to me a little bit about the weather narrative that a lot of people are parroting this week.
Yeah, I like the Dolphins here. I know I'm going to be head-to-head with others on the show here. When I look at this team and everything that's going on with them, I don't think they're properly rated because of what they went through early in the season. And normally the market would have caught up this particular week. However, they go into a Green Bay team that I think is also a little inflated in the market. And some of that is exaggerated here when you get a cold weather situation on a short week. And historically, what has been one of the better home field advantages in the NFL. But to me, this Miami Dolphins team is just a little bit different than we've seen in the past. And it really has to do with Devon Achane and Jonnu Smith. So typically in the past, this Dolphins team was just extremely high variance because Tua's either having a lot of success hitting big chunk plays or they're going 3 and out and punting the football. Now Tua is getting the ball out a little quicker. Some of that's from his own injury concerns and things that he's been dealing with, but he's got one read down the field to one of his two stars in Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. And then he's very comfortable checking the ball down. And Jonnu Smith is just such a big body that's difficult to bring down. So there's many times with a traditional tight end where they'd be set up in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, that they're now set up in 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, because Jonnu is able to get the extra yard or two. And Devon Achane has just proven that he can handle the workload. So for me, I think the Miami's still a little undervalued here. We can talk all day about their defense as well. It's the run defense. You look at the cold weather, the Green Bay Packers should want to try to run the ball with Josh Jacobs. To me, Jacobs has lost a big step in his explosiveness. I think he's going to continue to touch the football a ton, but I think that they're going to be, again, in those 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 kind of situations. Not having Romeo Doubs, I think, is a big deal. And then defensively, not having Jair Alexander, I think, is a big deal considering the emergence of Achane out of the backfield, Jonnu Smith over the middle. So I like Miami here. I think we get a tight, competitive game. Wouldn't be upset if they lose by 3, considering we're holding the 3.5 ticket here and knocking them out of the playoffs. Because frankly, in the AFC, I don't want to see this Miami team in the playoffs. That's how good I think they are. So give me Dolphins here plus 3.5.
All right. Fat Stack says Devon Achane anytime touchdown. Proppy, before we get to your pick, let me go ahead and give mine out. I'm going to do the Dolphins Packers first half under. Again, some confusion with the SportsLine app. Those 24s really don't exist anywhere at this point. So I'm going to, the official play is first half under 23.5 at -108. This one is just, listen, I don't really want to get into the cold weather stuff, although I know, Mike, you can expand upon that. We talked about it on FFT DFS in terms of the strength of schedule Miami has played in those cold weather games. We'll get to that before we close this show. But I've noticed in the Dolphins sort of higher scoring games, which over the last few weeks, first of all, against worse defenses than this, but also they appear to have opened it up in the second half only. Like the first half under is really coming in on Dolphins games. And I think both of these defenses are pretty good. You add in the elements, which aren't, I mean, they're not horrific, but they're certainly not ideal. You add the short area passing game with what Green Bay is going to try to do with Josh Jacobs. And I just think you get a lot of running clock. And I just don't think you get a 14-10 halftime score. I think it's closer to maybe 13-10 with some field goals, or maybe even like a 10-10, that type of situation, 10-7 type game. So I'm going to take the first half under. I like the overall under of 48, 47.5, but I'm going to go with the first half because I've noticed things have opened up a little bit in the second half of some of these games between the Dolphins and the Packers. Propstarz, let's go to you. I mentioned Josh Jacobs. You like Josh Jacobs, but not really, right? You're taking an under.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Mike's take regarding Miami, regarding the outlook on this game. Miami being undervalued here. Miami's offense really showing the ability to win in the short and intermediate parts of the field, something they had struggled to do. Mike McDaniel is featuring a tight end for the first time during his coaching tenure, has really opened things up. Their ability to sustain drives, Devon Achane, as well as ability to make an impact in the short area passing game has been tremendous. So I'm very bullish on this Miami team. I think they're undervalued as well. But yeah, and I think the defense is underrated, particularly the rush defense, which started out poorly, but really has come on strong over the last 6 to 8 weeks of the season. And I think we're catching an inflated line regarding Josh Jacobs, who's been fairly good coming off of a 3-touchdown game against a pretty vulnerable San Francisco run defense, but facing a much more difficult challenge against Miami this week here. So I'm going under 74.5 rushing yards for Josh Jacobs, who's been fine, really benefited from volume. The explosiveness metrics aren't really inspiring, the breakaway yards, etc. So I think he's going to find it hard to run against this Miami front seven that's been very stout and has been one of the best rush defenses in the NFL over the past 6 to 8 weeks here. So I think this is a good spot to fade Josh Jacobs, who's had some big yardage totals, but really benefited from some big runs, which I think will be tough to get on Miami here. So I'm going under 74.5 rushing yards for Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I like this look as well. This is one of the first ones I considered in the week. And so it's not an official play for me, but I'm glad it is for you. I do think he'll get the volume. I just don't think he necessarily eclipses this yardage total. All right, Mackenzie Brooks, we've got 2 props from you. Are we starting
We're
with
spraying the board today, guys?
We are, which I love. I can't wait to see the recap screen. It's heavily weighted under Mackenzie Brooks's name. What do we have for this game?
I think Tua throws an interception. Call me crazy. I think this is a pretty good price for something he does. Take the cold weather out of it. The guy melts down against good teams. We can take a trip down memory lane, shall we? 3 against Buffalo in September, 1 against Kansas City, 1 against Buffalo, 2 against Baltimore. And these are all coincidentally in the cold weather. So I do like that is on our side here. But Green Bay is tied. Their defense is tied for the second most turnovers in the league, 7th in interceptions. And they have the league leader with 7 interceptions as well. So if there is a time for our guy to melt down, I think it would be today. And it could be a good game. And if they're playing from behind, I think we see a lot of game through the air. Even if the wind isn't on your side, when you're playing from behind, you got to do what you got to do. So I think we'll have plenty of opportunities. And then we're going Jaden Reed over 48.5 receiving yards. We have him projected for 62. And since last December, he has 2 unders in a row. This is not a guy that has 3 straight unders. And I know this defense can be hard to figure out, offense with how many weapons they have. It's just about 4 or 5 guys you can trust. And I know we talked about Romeo Doubs not being in, but I think that just makes him blatantly the wide receiver 1 here. And I think that his reception line's 4.5. Sometimes I like to look at that. It's juiced to the under. So if you call it around 4 receptions and he averages 15 yards per reception, math tells you, give me 60 receiving yards at least.
That's interesting. That without Romeo Doubs, it does make sense to give a bump up to guys like Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, maybe even Tucker Kraft and Dontavian Wicks. Those are all interesting plays in DFS, which reminds me, Mike, when we were on FFT DFS, I believe it was yesterday, or might have been on the early edge, you did mention, because Mackenzie Brooks just talked about some of these cold weather games with Tua and the interceptions.
Yeah.
All the teams she mentioned were great teams, right? It was the Ravens, it was the Bills, it was the Chiefs. So talk to me real quick about some of the cold weather games that Tua has had to face. It's all against like pretty great teams, right?
Yeah, so it's the interesting note on Tua's struggles in cold weather. The average like strength of schedule in his entire career in the NFL is like 480, and the average in cold weather games is 800. It's like double. It's like the hardest possible situation. So I would note also they played the Buffalo Bills on the road in Buffalo just recently to a 3-point game. I like this team offensively right now. I don't think they're properly rated. Having said that, is there a possibility that we get to halftime and they're down 14-0 and we get the halftime interview and Mike McDaniel turns and says, it's cold out here? Like, it's very possible we get that moment. And so it's certainly possible. But to me, I just think that this is a spot where Miami is not the same team that they have been in the past.
I will say this about that Bills game. I really think Miami outplayed Buffalo, which is saying something because I think Buffalo is great. And if it wasn't for a personal foul call that should have never been called at the end of the game against one of the DBs, I can't remember which one it was, I do think Miami wins that game. So they definitely, even before the wins, the little winning streak they put together, they were playing pretty good football for the 2 games prior, including that Bills game. All right, we got a little bit more to cover, but you all probably thought we forgot about first touchdown scores. Well, we didn't. We just kind of doing it a little different. We didn't want to do one for each game because that'd be kind of cheating for all the other primetime shows if we all got 3 picks. So we have 1 pick. We get to pick in one of these 3 games. But before we get to the picks, I do have to remind you about the BetMGM promo. We've all had our first touchdown bet called back before, and BetMGM is giving you a second chance with BetMGM's Pro Football Second Chance. Place any first touchdown score bet, and if your player doesn't score first but scores second, get your entire stake back in cash, no opt-in required. Here's how it works. Place a pregame straight first touchdown score bet in any NFL game. If your player scores the first touchdown in the game, win your wager is normal. If your player scores the second touchdown in the game, you'll get your stake back in cash. It's that simple. Log in to BetMGM for more details. All right, we've got 4 picks. We got 4 first touchdown scores. Mackenzie Brooks, we start with you. Interesting name. You brought him up earlier.
Yeah, we're going back to my guy. I mean, I've talked all about him in anytime touchdown. Might as well go for the first time touchdown in Roschon Johnson here. Again, ton of value. I don't think he's necessarily competing with Swift. He just simply is the team's primary goal line rusher. And he's had a touchdown. People are going to fade him because of that from last week, but I still think 6 rushing touchdowns this season on 45 carries basically tells you everything you need to know that this is the guy they want to use if they get down there. So if the Bears bless us with the first touchdown, I do think it could be him.
All right. And by the way, Proppy, I apologize. I probably should have gone to you first and then perhaps me. But Mackenzie's been rocking this show. I just feel like she somehow earned it today, even though she doesn't have a diamond in front of her name or on top of her name. Propstarz, talk to me about a first touchdown score. I like this guy. I think he could have a big game. Or not. Maybe not a big game.
Oh, no. Frozen City.
We'll see if he comes
frozen
back. All right. So I'll go with Roma Dunze. I mean, you all know I have the prop on Roma Dunze. Plus 2,200, I think is a good number. I mean, unfortunately, that's not the best game to have a first touchdown score, given that there's so many weapons on both sides of the ball. But I will say this about Roma Dunze. If Caleb Williams gets time against this blitzing man coverage Lions defense, he's the guy that's downfield. So if somebody's going to catch a long touchdown pass, I actually do think it's Roma Dunze. Wouldn't shock me at all if the Bears strike first. I like the connection that's growing, even though the inefficiency has kind of been a thing. Give me Roma Dunze first touchdown, plus 2,200. Proppy, you're back. Who's your first touchdown score?
Back and better than ever, guys. Yeah, it's going to be Sam Laporta, not having the rookie season that he had last year, but still been pretty good. 1.66 yards per route run. Still running routes on 80% of Jared Goff's dropbacks here. So I think this is a good spot for him, potentially getting a pretty significant discount, all things considered as well. So let's go Sam Laporta, who I do think is a sneaky good bet to have a good day as well.
All right. Now we move to, before I get to Mike McClure, Artbender Artworks. Of all days to be rude, it's Thanksgiving. So, just relax a little bit. Pick a day to be nice. Maybe today is that day for you. Turn it around. Mike McClure, who's the first touchdown scorer?
Raheem Mostert. He will not be the first touchdown scorer of the day since it is the night game, but he will be the first touchdown scorer in that game. Look, the guy has only touched the football 5 times in the last 3 games. However, I think there are some interesting situations here. A lot like Kinsey with Roschon. I would not be surprised if Raheem Mostert got some goal line carries in this game for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's extremely cold outside. It is not fun getting hit and hitting the ground multiple times like that in those red zone situations. Devon Achane is going to be on the field a lot in passing situations. I think that Mostert could be the de facto goal line back in this particular game just because of some of those reasons related to the weather. So I like the spot for him, plus 2,500. Look, we've seen Miami have some success offensively, and we're not seeing Miami with the massive home run touchdown plays to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle anymore. We're seeing them kind of methodically move the football. That to me sets up as great spots for the running backs. So I like Mostert here, plus 2,500.
I think this is a great look. This is very interesting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're not quite done yet because we've got a couple parlays to give out and maybe some closing thoughts before we let you go to place your bets, to finish your DFS lineups, and just to hang out with family and watch football. Mackenzie Brooks, we started with you. We're going to end with a big bet with you. I've got a bet to give out, but I want to hear yours first because it's a big one. Plus 635, a Turkey Day parlay. What do we have?
Yeah, I mean, I figured you'd, give us what we needed that will probably be a more realistic cash, but we all need a nice little sprinkle 4-legger to get through the day as well. So we're actually going to start with who we talked about earlier, DJ Moore, to have go 50 plus receiving yards. So again, just an alt line you can find there, minus 165. It's not a coincidence that he's had 2 big games. I think the offensive coordinator switch has been very beneficial to him. We have a ton of Caleb Williams props to really back this as well. And then we are going to go back to my boy Tracy. We're going just the rushing yards here, over 66.5. Again, confusion at quarterback means run the ball and try to hope that maybe this is your like Saquon Barkley light at some point in the season. Then we're going to go Josh Jacobs, anytime touchdown, minus 185 here. Again, I know you guys are kind of fading my guy here, but I think this is a good spot for him. Miami allowing almost 5 yards per carry. So I think it can be a good Josh Jacobs game, bit on a heater with the touchdowns as well. And then just to cap it off, to give us a 4th leg and a little extra boost, we're going Tyreek Hill, 50 plus receiving yards, something he's certainly capable of as well. Plus 635 for those at home.
All right, plus 635. Mine is merely a plus 100. Even money parlay. I'm alt line with the Lions, so I'm teasing that down. It's not a true tease. We're just going to alt lines, which all these sports books have. So I'm getting the Lions down to 2.5 under that key number of 3, obviously. And then I'm taking the Cowboys money line. And that parlay, with the Lions having to win by a field goal and the Cowboys simply having to win, is even money. Listen, I feel pretty confident about this one because I do think if it's Drew Lock, it does scare me a little bit. If it's Tommy DeVito, not so much. I do think the Cowboys end up winning this game regardless. And I think the Bears have some fight in them. I'm not going to pretend like this is going to be a blowout. It certainly could be. but the Bears have looked kind of decent. The Lions have some injuries. So that's why I think I needed to tease this down under the 3. Feels like a comfortable parlay to make to the extent that parlays are comfortable to make. So give me this one at even money. All right. Before we get to our best bets, there was somebody that asked about the Discord. So Jake, can we just put up the Discord URL one more time for those that joined us late? If you're a SportsLine member, you get to be in this Discord. It's obviously free for SportsLine members. Discord.gg/SportsLine gets you into the Discord, or you can go to sportsline.com and just click the Discord link when you scroll down. Either way, simple to access the SportsLine Discord. Get in there, especially on a day like this. This could be a really great day to be in there. All right, let's get our best bets on the screen. We've got a lot of them. Well, Mackenzie has a lot of them. We've got a few.
I thought that was a task, guys. I was like, we got picks for every game. I'm going to find one. I'm going to make them mostly overs.
You're crushing it here. I'm going to start with your picks, actually. Mackenzie Brooks is on the Bears lines over 48.5. DeAndre Swift over 47.5 rush yards. Roshan Johnson, anytime touchdown. That one's plus 200. Cowboys minus 3.5. Tyrone Tracy over 76.5 rushing and receiving. Tua Tagovailoa over 0.5 interception. And Jaden Reed over 48.5 receiving yards. Yes, those were just Mackenzie Brooks's picks. All right, Propstarz. Caleb Williams over 21.5 completions at minus 130. Josh Jacobs under 74.5 rush yards at minus 115. Mike McClure, Dolphins plus 3.5. I've got Caleb Williams over 227.5 pass yards at minus 113. Roma Dunze over 43.5 receiving yards at minus 115. And Dolphins Packers first half under 23.5 at minus 108. Let's go back to the 4-shot, Jake. Any closing thoughts here? I happen to like, Proppy, I'm going to start with you. I love so many things in this Detroit game. That's why I even mentioned an SGP. I think Jameson Williams could hit his over. I think I'm looking at DeAndre Swift rushing attempts under, like I mentioned. I think Sam Laporta could have a good game. I could see anytime touchdowns for those two guys. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown's under. I like over 1.5 touchdown passes for Goff and maybe even Caleb Williams. I think I could put up a fun SGP in that particular game. Your thoughts on that game or just this slate in general to close us?
Yeah, I would agree. That's definitely the game of the day. As far as points are concerned, if we're looking for a same game parlay, that'd certainly be the game that I would focus on. So yeah, we could see a lot of potential ceiling games here between these two teams, feature a lot of passing volume. And I think finding cheap pieces, quote unquote, cheap pieces would definitely be the way to go. So just excited for a day of football. Also just want to give thanks to everyone who tuned in with us today. The SportsLine fam, the chat has been awesome. The support has been amazing. Very thankful to work here with you guys, that all of you guys are my colleagues as well. So couldn't be more grateful, and I hope everyone has a fantastic holiday.
Mike, any closing thoughts on the games or Thanksgiving?
Yeah, just happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Be kind to each other, please. You'll feel a lot better when you're kind. So yeah, just enjoy the games and let's go Dolphins.
That's such a sage comment, Mike, because most people think being kind is good for the other person. It turns out you find out being kind is good for you as well. So I absolutely love that comment. Mackenzie Brooks, you rocked it today. You rocked it with all the picks. You rocked it with the sunglasses. You rocked it with the hoodie. You rocked it with the conversation. You rocked it with the chat. Now you rock us to a close to the show. Your closing thoughts.
Just happy to be here with you smart people. Glad to be a part of the crew, even if it's just here for the vibes. And we've been on a great NFL player prop run, so hopefully we can keep that going today. Good vibes to everyone in the chat. All engagement is good engagement, so shout out to everyone who's been in there, despite what you're saying. We love it all. Thank you.
We love it all. Thank you. I think that's the proper way to close. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a great Thanksgiving. More content coming for you this weekend. I mean, I'm a part of 3 shows tomorrow. Mike, you and I have FFT DFS tomorrow at 11. I may or may not be joining the prop show at 1 o'clock. I don't know. Who knows? Nobody knows at this point. I don't know. Maybe Proppy doesn't even know. I don't even know. 1 o'clock. You might want to tune in. And 10 o'clock, we got the early edge. There's a lot of content coming your way, everybody. So have a great Thanksgiving and lock in with us tomorrow. But I got to reflect what everybody just said on this panel here. Thanks for being a part of this, not just today, but every day that you're a part of us. Hopefully you feel our picks and positivity, because that's what we're here to do. Again, happy Thanksgiving on behalf of the Early Edge. We'll see you very soon. I'm the Counselor of Cash. We rest our case.